The ritual of Saturnalia. Saturnalia was a Roman festival held in honour of the god Saturn, taking place each December. During this ritual, social roles were reversed. Slaves were allowed to behave like masters, and masters served their slaves. This ritual suspension of social norms was not just symbolic. Masters would actually prepare meals and wait on their servants. Public gambling, normally forbidden, was openly practiced. Another central feature was the selection of a king of Saturnalia, often a low-ranking individual or a slave, who was given license to command others to perform absurd or embarrassing acts. While the festival was intended as a time of joy and temporary equality, it often resulted in chaos, drunkenness, and violence. The celebration was also marked by the ritual exchange of gifts, including wax figurines called sigillaria, which some historians believe originally symbolized older, more disturbing sacrifices. The Taurobolium, bull sacrifice. The Taurobolium was a blood ritual associated with the cult of the Great Mother, Cybele. In this rite, a bull was sacrificed on a raised platform with slats or holes. Beneath the platform, an initiate, often seeking spiritual cleansing or rebirth, would lie in a pit. As the bull was slaughtered above, its blood would pour through the holes, covering the initiate entirely. The participant believed that bathing in the warm blood would purify them, grant renewed life, and connect them directly to the divine. This ritual was conducted in secret, often by priests, and was thought to grant power, protection, or healing to those who underwent it. The Argai sacrifice. Each year, during the festival of Lemuria, the Romans conducted a ritual known as the Argai. Effigies made of rushes and reeds, shaped like human figures, were thrown into the Tiber River by the Vestal virgins and priests. According to ancient sources, these figures were originally meant to represent actual human beings, possibly substitutes for human sacrifice in earlier periods. The ceremony took place at 27 shrines around the city, with each effigy tossed into the river to appease the gods and ward off evil spirits. This act was believed to cleanse the city of bad omens and restore balance between the human and divine realms. The Vestal Virgins' burials. The Vestal Virgins were priestesses dedicated to the goddess Vesta, sworn to 30 years of chastity and responsible for maintaining the sacred fire of Rome. If a Vestal Virgin broke her vow of chastity, the punishment was severe. Because Roman law forbade spilling the blood of a Vestal, the condemned woman would be buried alive in a small underground chamber with a loaf of bread, a lamp, and a small amount of water. The sealed chamber was left beneath the city, and the entrance was covered. This method allowed the Romans to claim they had not technically executed the priestess. The ritual was meant to uphold the purity of the temple and the city, as any defilement was believed to endanger Rome itself. The Lupercalia ritual. Lupercalia was an ancient Roman fertility festival held every February. The ritual began with priests, known as Luperci, sacrificing goats and a dog at the cave of Lupercal, believed to be the site where the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus, were nursed by a she-wolf. After the sacrifices, the priests would smear the foreheads of 2 young men with the blood from the sacrificed animals, then wipe it away with wool soaked in milk. Next, the Luperci would cut strips from the skins of the animals and run around the Palatine Hill, striking bystanders, especially women, with these strips. This act was believed to increase fertility and ensure safe childbirth. Women welcomed the blows, thinking it would help them conceive or make their pregnancies easier. The ritual of devotio. Devotio was a ritual of self-sacrifice performed by Roman generals during desperate moments in battle. A general who saw defeat as inevitable could devote himself and the enemy army to the gods of the underworld, particularly Pluto and the spirits of death, in exchange for victory. The general would dress in special attire, stand on a spear, and recite a prayer committing his life and the enemy to the gods below. He would then charge into enemy lines, expecting to be killed, thus fulfilling his vow. Romans believed this extreme sacrifice could sway the gods' favour and bring about a miraculous victory. The Lemuria banishing rites. During the festival of Lemuria, Romans performed rites to appease restless spirits. Known as lemures, believed to haunt households and cause misfortune. At midnight, the head of the household would walk barefoot through the house, throwing black beans over his shoulder, while chanting a specific incantation 9 times. He would not look back as he did this, believing the beans would lure the spirits away. After the ritual, he would bang bronze pots to drive the ghosts out completely. These actions were meant to purify the home and protect the family from supernatural harm. The ritual of live burial for oaths, devotiones sacramental. When Rome was faced with grave threats or breaches of sacred oaths, ritual punishments could involve the live burial of individuals who had broken their vows or failed in religious duties. In one variant, priests who broke sacred agreements were buried alive outside the city's sacred boundaries as a means of appeasing the gods and cleansing the community. This method of execution was considered both a punishment and a means of restoring religious balance. The act was kept away from public view to avoid polluting the city with the spiritual consequences of such a transgression. The ritual of the October horse. The October horse was an annual sacrifice held on the Ides of October, dedicated to Mars, the Roman god of war. In this ritual, the right-hand horse of the winning chariot from a public race was selected and sacrificed. The horse's head was then severed, and a fierce contest broke out between 2 groups of citizens for possession of the head. The winners would display the head in their district as a talisman of power and protection. The animal's tail was rushed to the Regia, the residence of the chief priest, so that its blood could drip onto the sacred hearth. This offering was believed to secure the city's military success and ensure a prosperous harvest, combining elements of both martial and agricultural worship. The ritual of the Salii priests. The Salii were an elite college of 12 priests devoted to Mars, the Roman god of war. Their most prominent ritual took place each March, marking the opening of the military campaigning season. Dressed in elaborate ceremonial armour, the Salii would parade through the city, each priest carrying an ancient oval shield called an ancile, believed to have fallen from the sky and safeguarded as a symbol of Rome's destiny. As they marched, the priests performed a distinctive dance, leaping and stepping in intricate patterns that had been handed down for generations. Accompanying the dance, they sang archaic hymns in a form of Latin so old that even in the later Republic, many Romans could no longer understand the words. The combined spectacle of clashing shields, rhythmic movement, and powerful chanting was intended to purify the city, drive away evil spirits, and invoke Mars's favour for the coming year. The ritual also included grand feasts and sometimes reenactments of legendary deeds attributed to Rome's founders. The Salii's actions were considered so vital that any mistake was believed to endanger the safety of the entire state, making the precise performance of each step, word, and gesture a matter of national importance. The ritual of human sacrifice in early Rome. In the earlier centuries of Rome, human sacrifice formed part of the city's religious response to dire threats and calamities. Though later Romans often claimed moral superiority by outlawing such practices, the historical record indicates that the city resorted to ritual executions in moments of extreme crisis to regain the favour of the gods. One of the most documented cases occurred in 216 BCE, following the disastrous Roman defeat at the Battle of Cannae during the Second Punic War. In an act meant to avert further catastrophe, the Romans selected 2 pairs of victims, 1 pair of Gauls and 1 pair of Greeks, who were buried alive in the Forum Boarium, the city's capital. The ritual was performed with the utmost secrecy and accompanied by solemn ceremonies, as it was believed that spilling the blood of foreigners would appease the gods of the underworld and cleanse Rome of its collective misfortune. Such acts were considered deeply polluting and dangerous, so every detail was tightly controlled. Although these rites gradually fell out of favour and were replaced with animal or symbolic offerings, the memory and moral unease of these early human sacrifices lingered in Roman religious consciousness for centuries, influencing later practices and taboos. The ritual of the Rex Nemorensis. The Rex Nemorensis, or King of the Sacred Grove, was a singular figure in ancient Roman religion, serving as the priest of Diana at her sanctuary by Lake Nemi, near Rome. Unlike other Roman priesthoods, this position was not inherited or awarded by the state. Instead, it was claimed through a violent and highly ritualized contest. The only way to become Rex Nemorenses was for an escaped slave to challenge the reigning priest to mortal combat within the sacred grove itself. If the challenger succeeded in killing the incumbent priest, he immediately assumed the role and all its sacred duties. This brutal method of succession was both a religious rite and a stark form of human sacrifice, symbolizing devotion to the goddess Diana through a fight to the death. The practice was shrouded in secrecy, governed by strict taboos. Only those who broke a branch from a specific sacred tree were allowed to issue a challenge, and the entire ordeal was watched closely to ensure no sacrilege took place. The Rex Nemorenses was expected to defend his title continually, living under constant threat, and his authority depended on his strength and vigilance, upholding the sanctity and unbroken tradition of the grove.